All right, so pre-season, the AFL pre-season games, let's get stuck into them. Obviously, they've just happened. Players had to prepare for the season via these games. And I was listening to Dan Garinge, his podcast. I don't know if I pronounced his name correctly there, but anyway. Dan does footy. He's got his podcast. I enjoyed his episode, and he was saying it was not competitive at all, just a piss take. Let's get some energy back into this thing because it's a non-event at the moment. It's doing my head in. Make it a serious comp again. Bring back the Wizard Cup. And he's suggesting to put $500K on the line. You win that money for the whole playing list. Now, I didn't mind the AFL preseason games. That's probably a bit extreme there. I didn't think it was as bad as what he's describing. But I do like the idea of maybe putting money on the line or something just to give it a little bit more of a spark and add a little bit of competitiveness to it. There is that factor, but just to give it a little bit more of a spark. So I'd love to see the AFL next season think of something just to enhance it a little bit. That's my view. But what did you guys think about the preseason?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like the idea of what Gawn just said. I think incentive's never a bad thing for something like this. I think it incentivise to, if they want to make a spectacle of the preseason, then giving incentive for clubs is the best way to get them to, I guess take it a little bit more seriously or provide better spectacle for fans. I'm of the belief that preseason isn't for the AFL. That's for clubs to work out, what's going to work for them during the season and also getting minutes under the belt for the players. I really don't think it's something that should be prioritised as a spectacle. I think it's more club focused than as a competition. But again, it obviously worked back in the day with St Kilda in 2004 and times before that where they did take it a little bit more seriously. I think clubs are now of the belief that more serious game time before round 1 or round 0 in this year's case probably increases the chances of players getting injured. So I'm of the belief it shouldn't be. It's not that important. Anna, what did you think, Anna?
No, I agree with you, folks. I just think there's just so much list management these days, and it's obvious, as you said, it's for the clubs. The players don't want to put themselves out there. You look at Guthrie, you look at all these players that went out for 2 seconds, and now that's cost them half their season, if not all of it, depending if they can crack back into the team. They're not really wanting to take the risk, and I think back in the day when they were doing things like the Wizard Cup, I think it was more to give the fans a bit of for clubs who, I know Geelong in 06 won the preseason cup and it was this huge thing and fans were literally buying posters because Geelong had never won anything. So my brother's girlfriend's mum, she bought a poster because that was the first thing Geelong had won in 43 years at the time. So I get why that could be, an incentive, but you don't need it now. A lot of new teams are coming in playing finals. You look at someone like Carlton, they're not hungry for it because they know their side can actually get to the, September, proper. So, I don't think we need to do anything crazy. The season's long enough, Yeah,
well, I think that's what the AFL did this year. They sort of didn't want to make a big deal of it at all. I think they actually reduced the number of games in their official pre-season tournament. And that's why they brought in the gather round because that sort of took up the time which would usually be used to play these practice games. So I actually, thinking about it now, I'd probably go either AFL go one way, which is have a proper tournament, or have nothing at all. I don't even know if they need to, do, I think what they're doing now is pretty much fine if they want to. But one way or the other. I don't mind the idea of potentially trialling something like at $500K on the line and see how it goes. But it's strange because then clubs are what do they prioritise? Do they prioritise the home and away season or the pre-season game? But did anything catch your eye throughout the pre-season matches, guys? And did you guys tune in?
I actually didn't get the chance to watch much across the weekend. I just sort of flicking through the results. I don't think there were too many surprises from what I saw. It all seemed pretty above board and I guess what we were expecting. But again, it's still a time of year where clubs are still trying. It's their last chance to work out what they want before the season starts. I don't think people or coaches are going to be looking too heavy into it. Again, just managing players' minutes and making sure their bodies are right for round 1. These results don't mean anything, and that's sort of what we were going on about before. So, Anna, did you see anything that caught your eye?
I do think the one thing that I did have to watch all the games and do a lot of work behind the scenes, but I did notice that the Max Gawn dominance is
Oh, yeah.
I've heard that's real.
definitely back. Obviously, a lot of sides worked that game plan out, but he smashed Carlton. And you'd think it's so simple, just, put 3 blokes on him and shut it down, but then that opens up the rest of their side. He's by far the best ruckman in the competition, and I know it was just a pre-season game, but he's back. I'm putting my money on it. He's back.
Yeah, and I watched that game and he was dominating. And, I don't know if anyone else really dominated that game, but he should be getting 3 Brownlow votes that match. I reckon Max Gawn could win the Brownlow this year.
I'd love to see it.
Seriously, that game, 3 votes, and the umpires, they see, he flies under the radar, but that should have been a 3-vote game to Max Gawn, and we see all these midfielders getting so much love in the Brownlow votes, but Max Gawn, he should be winning the Brownlow.
I'm having a look at his stats now. So he had 2 goals and 24 disposals, 5 marks and 30 hit-outs. So he's had a pretty good day out. De Koning would have been his opponent throughout the day.
And Pitnet.
And Pitnet, yeah. So Pitnet's not someone that should be sneezed at. De Koning's obviously someone that's developing, but that's still a pretty good performance against 2 rucks. One's going to be very, very good in the future, and one I think is a pretty solid hit out.
Yeah, well, there you go. And another thing that we're going to discuss, and we may as well sort of jump straight into it, is the Jimmy Webster bump on Simpkin. That was pretty intense. We just spoke about sparking up the preseason. He certainly provided a spark, and probably a spark that wasn't really legal, and he's going to get done for it. Legal in terms of on the footy field.
I mean, you'd probably get something in the court for doing that in real life too. So,
what do you think, guys? There's been talk about it in terms of the weeks. David King, he suggested 10 weeks for him, and I don't know, what sort of comes to mind first? We're talking about a pre-show, but Anna, do you want to share your thoughts?
Yeah, look, obviously Powell-Pepper got his 4 weeks and I get it, but I didn't like to see him be a scapegoat for the Maynard incident, in my opinion. We can go back. Maynard should have got at least 2 weeks for what he did, whatever. And they've obviously changed the ruling. But I look at what Webster did yesterday, and he's a bloke who's been in the league. He was drafted in 2011. He's played 133 games or something. He's not some newbie with a brain fade. That was malicious intent. You didn't need to do it. You could have wrapped the tackle around. I'm calling for 10 weeks. I'm making the big call now. I don't have any sympathy. And yeah, I think the way the whole thing's played out, there's been so much that's come out of it, not just the bump. There's been fallout with his family. We can get into that. But I don't think there's much remorse. I don't know what there's, if he's actually talked to Simpkin, but I'm calling for 10 weeks. You just can't do that. That's thuggery.
Yeah, the act, it was a mistake, and I'm sure he probably isn't happy about what he's done there. So yeah, a bad mistake, and hopefully Jy Simpkin is okay. I'm not sure what the update is on him, but he didn't look in too good a state after copying that knock. And he's such a star player as well for North Melbourne, so it's devastating for them. And he's the captain. I think it's his first year as captain now, I think that he got announced captain before the start of last season. But yeah, he couldn't have picked a worse player to do it to as well, in terms of North Melbourne and what they need at the moment. So, Fawkes, did you have a week's number in mind?
I like Anna's optimism for the double digits in 10. I think 6 to 7. My big issue with it is this isn't a rule thing. This has never been an acceptable act. It's not a matter of, the rules changing over time. I think you go back, 20 years and that's still several weeks on the sidelines. It's amplified since then. I think 6 or 7 is appropriate. It's just not a football. It goes. I think here's one. It's an incredible act after everything that's been spoken about in the last couple of weeks and the last acts towards the back end of last season. Obviously, I'm referring to Maynard and Brayshaw. It is everything the AFL doesn't want in one hit. Head-high contact. He'd already kicked the ball. There was no intent to put any pressure on. He'd already gotten rid of the ball.
Yeah, he could have smothered. He could have done. Could have smothered.
Could have pulled out. Could have gone lower body. He could have just gone in for a tackle.
Put the arms around.
Given away a free kick, and that's all you could. There was no indication that he was not trying to make a pretty big hit out of Simpkin. And I found that really disappointing. There was just no intent to prevent himself from getting hit. And it's the AFL, what the AFL doesn't want, and rightly so. It's just another guy who has now had a pretty serious concussion knock. And I think if the AFL, it's another opportunity for them to say that they're serious about everything to do with concussion. I think I'm leaning towards a 7-week penalty. I think it's as serious a hit as we've seen in a long time.
Well, if Powell-Pepper's getting 4 weeks for what he did, which I thought 4 weeks was harsh, because
I agree with that.
That tackle,
Interesting.
the player tackled another Port Adelaide player tackled whoever they were playing, slung him around. Powell-Pepper had no control of his teammate who was tackling. I thought 4 weeks was completely harsh, but if Powell-Pepper's getting 4 weeks for that, well then the AFL, if they want to remain on that trajectory, well then this should be 15 weeks.
15.
Seriously, I thought Powell-Pepper was hard done by. I thought it should have been 2 or 3.
2 or 3.
I agree with that.
And
Willie Rioli slung, it was, and I'm not saying, I know your crow's nuffy's coming out right now.
Here we go. I like Port.
No, I'm joking. But yeah, it was more of an in the situation tackle, hit, sorry. But I think, yeah, as you said, it's what happened to Simpkin, that's unacceptable. Webster, you can't have it's not a brain fade. The league's got to come down on that kind of stuff. It's just...
It's a calculated decision, what Webster
Absolutely.
made. And there was, he had enough time to think about it, I think. And obviously, it's worth knowing that we're being really critical, even with the Powell-Pepper thing. You don't have much time. It's easy for us to sit on a couch in a chair and say, he should have done X, Y, Z. I would have put a number on 3 for Powell-Pepper. I think it was slightly too harsh, but at the same time, he went in pretty hard. It's a bad look. I think it's more understandable though from Powell-Pepper that it was more of a slick decision. He was running in and around the contest. Webster inserted himself into that contest with no real end result that was going to really bring about any positive for anyone. So yeah, Powell-Pepper 3. I think Webster 7 is around the mark on my end.
7-8 for me. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
I think it's also important, sorry to interrupt, to note that Simpkins had 3 big concussions in the past 9 months.
Is this being his 4th or his 3rd?
I think, I don't know exactly, but I think this was, 3 or 4, which is huge. And I think not that we should base, or the AFL should base decisions on, a player's health, but, does however long Simpkins out, would that impact a decision that the AFL make on how to punish Webster?
Well,
Will
they shouldn't.
Simpkin play again? But yeah.
Well, they shouldn't, but at the end of the day, I think they do sometimes. And yeah, but I think they shouldn't, and no, they probably try not to, but you do get influenced by these storylines, and it's emotional. So it's hard not to sort of let it play a part. But yeah, we'll see what happens. It's unfortunate to see, but it happens in our game, unfortunately, and sometimes players make mistakes, and yeah, this was one of them.